No one is a perfect player, and sometimes we just make mistakes when playing CSGO. But those little mistakes here and there will dictate whether you win or lose your games. So if you want to turn those losses into wins, you come to the right place. What's up, ProGuides fam? Kangas here, and in today's video, I'm pointing out the most common mistakes that are made in the lower ranks, and also how to go about fixing them. If a mistake isn't pointed out, it can turn into a bad habit, and that is the last thing that we want when going into games. So hit that sub button, and let's get into it. So one of the first mistakes that most players in the lower ranks will consistently make is a pretty simple one, and that one is playing in bad positions. Having bad positioning will be the cause of most of your deaths. For example, playing in a perfect position with a lack of cover or one right in the open is possibly the worst thing that you can do when holding an angle. When playing in the open, you are completely exposed, so when enemies push into you, there's no chance that you can get away. This will force you to take the fight. This is a problem when pushing on T side, but is an even bigger problem when playing on CT side. That's because the T side, you're generally pushing and playing more aggressive, so you won't be in the open for that long. Whereas on CT side, if you're holding a push when you're in the open, you're a free target for the enemy team. The best way to eliminate this mistake is to make sure that when you're holding an angle, it's close to cover so you can peek out and then quickly fall back to safety. Your positioning is also dictated by awareness. Just because you're in a good position for holding one angle, that doesn't mean you're in a good position from all different angles. So make sure that when you're holding an angle behind cover, you're not exposed to any other angles and you won't get shot from one side or from behind. This is also while playing out in the open is just usually a bad idea, as you're technically exposed from all angles. And that moves us nicely to our question of the day. What's your favorite angle to hold or push on any map? For me, it's gotta be connector on overpass. The 50-50 gunfight on the long hallway makes it difficult to fall back, and I actually like that because I feel like I usually win my duels there. But what about you guys? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Alright, so this next mistake that lots of players constantly make is peeking and pushing too much. Lots of players feel the need to rush into the enemies as fast as possible and try and get as many kills within a short amount of time. But in reality, it's usually better to play rounds slowly and relaxed. This is due to the fact that if you play the round slowly, you'll be able to clear every angle precisely and carefully push onto the site without the chance of dying from behind. This style of CS is much more structured and will increase your chances of winning rounds and in turn, winning games. You have to make sure that instead of rushing the site and trying to get the round over in 20 seconds, you just play slower and smarter. But overpushing isn't the only mistake that we're going to evaluate here. We also have to talk about overpeaking. Overpeaking is such a rookie mistake, as it will give your opponents way more chances to kill you and also give the information of where you are. If you're finding it hard to kill your opponent, instead of constantly re-peeking and pre-firing their angle, it's much better to initially peek their angle, and if they're not there, slowly shift up to a closer and different position, so that when they make the mistake of re-peeking, you can easily kill them. Not being able to trade your teammates is a major factor that will affect whether you win or lose rounds, as the opponents will now have a man advantage and make it much harder to get that win. This links very closely with the first tip about positioning. As on CT side, you should play in a position where if your teammate gets killed, you're able to trade that kill and bring the round back in your favor, or at least back to an equal fight. So when deciding the position that you want to play on CT side, you need to have a good awareness of where your teammates are playing too. For example, on A-Site Mirage, if your teammate is playing towards default box and you're sitting in connector, it's nearly impossible to trade your teammate if they get killed. So then, playing on stairs or towards CT spawn may be a better option, as then you can trade them. But if connector is the best position to play for your team as the enemies keep pushing up middle, it would be good for you to communicate with your teammates to play closer to con, for example on stairs. So if your teammate dies stairs, you can then quickly turn around and trade them, and vice versa. Trading teammates is also vital on T side, as it will allow you to get the bomb down on the site. For example, on Inferno, when it gets to later in the round, most teams on CT side will have 2 players towards B site. So in a 5v5 situation, if you all push together, you can trade and kill the enemies. So bringing the fight from a 5v5 to a 3v3 with control of the bomb site makes it way more difficult for the CTs because they don't have a man advantage to retake. But of course, this is also applicable on all maps and all bomb sites. If on T side you can trade your teammates well, you will easily be able to convert your rounds into wins. Utility usage is vital in CSGO because it will help you push onto the sites on T side, and on CT it will help you delay the T side push. So knowing utility and when to use it is very important. A mistake that many players, especially at the lower ranks, make is using utility without much reason. For example, flashbangs are very effective when clearing angles, as it either will force your opponent to leave the angle that they're holding or just full blind them, making it really easy to pick up a kill. But what usually happens is that players will use these utilities like flashbangs and molotovs in unnecessary situations because they just throw the nades and then not push or peek after using them. This waste of utility will make rounds very difficult to win because nothing was gained from throwing it. A major bit of advice is to make sure that when using utility, you always benefit from it. Lots of teams on CT side Inferno will throw lots of flashbangs and Molotovs down banana, but if they just fall back to the site after using this utility, there wasn't really a point of using it in the first place. So make sure that when you use lots of utility, you make sure to get the map control, or ideally the kills that the utility was used for. Utility is a very advanced topic, and it's not just about learning lineups. There's lots of nuance to when one specific smoke or flashbang is really good, a bit unnecessary, or even just a complete and utter waste. So if you really want to understand those nuances, you should consider booking a session with one of our coaches. They can dive into that topic way more deep than I can in one video, so if you're interested, go check out the website and sign up with one. Alright, something that most players will assume is the most important factor when trying to improve is to have the best aim possible, but I'm here to show you that there are lots of other mechanics that you need to improve to get to the top. Don't get me wrong, having the best aim in the server is always going to help, but there's much more that you're going to need to do to be able to use that godly aim to your advantage. For example, making sure that your movement is top tier is always going to be important, as it will enable you to fall back behind cover smoothly and swiftly. Also, it will help you get from point A to point B in the most effective manner. Every single second wasted when rotating between sites will cost you, as the quicker you get there, the more time you have to plant or defuse the bomb. Some key examples are the window to short jump on Mirage, overpass quick surf on short to get away from sight, the vertigo run boost, and the inferno jump from balcony to porch. These little movement tips will improve your gameplay as you will surprise your enemies with your position, and therefore they will become an easy kill. Another important mechanic that you have to perfect to become a better player is being able to counter strafe correctly. Counter-strafing is the ability to peek an angle and then instantly stop, and therefore have no weapon inaccuracy when shooting. When peeking, make sure to hold down the D key until you can see the position, then let go of the D key and tap the A key. This enables you to stand still instantly and get a quick peek out and get a kill. This skill is so important in Counter-Strike as it will enable you to quickly peek angles and get kills that otherwise you'd be too inaccurate to get. Another major mistake that a lot of players make is not focusing on your mentality when playing. For example, if you've just in general been having a bad day in CSGO, make sure to not get angry and blame your teammates, because it will cause them to either troll the game or just get annoyed with you and play worse. Make sure that if you aren't doing too well in your games, you should maybe just call it a day and take a break from CSGO. I'm serious, sometimes refreshing your mind and coming back in a couple hours or even the next day will get you some more wins. Sometimes in the middle of a game, your teammate may cause you to die, or they might even be baiting you. But instead of flaming them and getting annoyed about the fact that you lost the round, it's much better to just forget about it and focus on the next round. This will keep you and your teammates calm and will also keep you in a good headspace. Information is probably the most important part of CSGO. If your teammate has seen or heard somebody in the game and forgets to call it out, they've made a major mistake, as all the information is important as it will give you a good idea of where enemies are and what side is best to push. For example, if you're playing in Connector on Mirage and you get flashbanged, there's a high chance that there's an enemy sitting in under or top mid. This is very important in clutch situations as there's less enemies alive and therefore the information of where opponents are becomes even more important. Think about it this way, in a 2v2 situation on CT side, if you can hear one player fast pushing in apartments on Mirage, there's a high chance that the enemies are going to try and plant the bomb on B site. If you don't give this info to your teammates though, they will be very late to rotation and will put you in a bad situation when you're holding the site in a 1v2 instead of your favorable 2v2. So making sure to give your teammates all the information will allow you to play much better as a team because there's nothing holding you back. The mistake of not communicating with your teammates is such a big one, as on CT side the rotations will be much slower and therefore the game just becomes that much harder. On T side, all your information will be able to show which site has more or less players on it. For example, if you know that 3 smokes have been thrown by the CTs on one site, it might be a good idea to push that site because they can no longer use smoke grenades to delay your push. And the final mistake that I believe everyone has made at some point is not looking at your team's economy before you buy. There have been countless rounds where I bought myself an AK and utility without necessarily realizing my teammates don't have enough to get a full buy. Make sure to check your team's money before you buy because you can always plan for the next round. This also links well with the previous mistakes of communication. For example, if you want your team to force buy, but you do not communicate this well with your teammates, well, the team's economy will be pretty split because you force bought and your teammates have ecoed. So on the next round, you won't have the full team of good weapons. This mistake is vital in lower ranks as each round is so important, so make sure that you don't throw away a round by full buying when your team can't buy at all. Well, hopefully this video has helped you realize some of the mistakes that you make when playing CSGO and also how to improve on them. But hey, if you feel like there's still others that you haven't learned about, get in touch with one of our coaches at ProGuides.com and they can help you out with anything that you need when it comes to CS. We also offer expert courses on our website if you want some more in-depth info from a pro's perspective. Also, if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more tips and tricks. Best of luck in the grind, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.